As people are filtering in and filtering out, we've been talking about this a lot all day. Native advertising, from Visa to GE. I've been hearing all folks talking about native advertising. So now we're going to spend some time talking with folks who are in the trenches, running campaigns, doing this stuff right now in the field. In my opinion, really, we got a panel of folks that are the cutting edge of what's going on in mobile right now, managing all sorts of logos all across the industry. And so I'm going to start, and just first thing I wanted to do, actually, I don't want that yet, so take that off. Let's go back to their names, because these guys are way more interesting and more fun. So, so I'm going to throw one over to Erin first. Erin, mobile is a buzzword, or native is a buzzword in the mobile space. And we had a good little email exchange talking about coming into this. We're going to come up with a working definition here for what is native. What does native actually mean? And so, Erin, you got a lot of great experience. Congratulations. Recently named to Business Insider's Top Women in Mobile. We just think that's awesome. So let's just start with your perspective on what is native advertising in the mobile space.
Yeah, I think it's actually funny. He wrote me an email about my thoughts, and I said, I freaking hate that word. Like, literally, if you come to my office and say native, I'm literally like, stop now. Like, I cannot stand that word. It's the most overused and underdefined word. Like, it literally just gives me goosebumps. It's kind of like cross-screen, cross-platform. It's like everybody talks about it, but no one knows what it means. I mean, to me, native is obvious. Like, you're not going to put an ad on a phone or a tablet that says, hey, look at me, I'm an ad here. I'm trying to sell some Tide Pods. So to me, it's obvious. It fits in with the design and the flow and the content. Like, you're not going to develop an advertising unit that really isn't native. You're not going to develop something that stands out and is awkward and intrusive. So it really, to me, I just say obvious, because native should be obvious in how you approach.
All right, that's helpful. The cool thing about this panel is I was doing a little bit of math when I was getting these guys' bios. We have about 34 combined years of experience working in mobile up on this space, So these guys have been doing a great job with that. So Sarah, you're doing some great work. You've managed a lot of large campaigns. Let's start with your perspective. Native advertising. How have you seen it done well? How have you seen it done not so well in some of the clients you've been working with?
Well, to kind of Erin's point, there's a lot that's out there that's not good. I mean, I would say that there's a lot of banners slapped on content, and that to me is, kind of the biggest problem that we have. When it comes to native, to me it's non-intrusive. It feels a part of the content. It does feel obvious, but it doesn't feel awkward. It doesn't feel like most of the ads that we see out there, which are just selling the next iPod, or they're selling the next product or offer or whatever. But to me, it has to feel integrated within the content. It has to feel seamless. It has to provide some kind of value to the brand and to the user. If anything, it should feel actually good to actually see that ad there.
Tom, when we had lunch the other day, you were talking about some of your experience consulting with different companies, being able to give them a real managerial experience and understanding the key business indicators for each one of your clients. I'm sure in your advising now that you do for Razorfish, you guys also look at some of the key performance indicators and whether or not the ad units and the campaigns they're looking at, whether they're going to play, whether they're not going to work. What role does conversations around native advertising play in the conversations you're having with some of your clients?
Well, I think it's an extension actually of a lot of the traditional advertising that we've done for years and years. So what we used to call content adjacency or advertorials is the digitization, and in many ways mobile helps solve some of the challenges around getting or native solves some of the challenges around getting some of this content onto a screen, through just the what do we call it, responsive design elements of it. But it's in many cases with the work that we're doing with clients, is about getting viewers or audience over to some of the deep content that our clients are already producing, and finding ways to actually engage them through an editorial platform into the owned editorial platform. So we look at, in terms of a KPI, we go from a cost per click to try and really get under the skin of a cost per engagement or cost per acquisition metric.
Yep. Cost per it seems like where a lot of these conversations start, Dirk. And when it comes to figuring out how to have a good native ad experience, but also talking about cost per, in the experience you've had with some of your clients, tell me a little bit about how that conversation has gone around making sure you design campaigns that are measurable and also things that feel right. So you can get the data part of it, but also the content is also part of that equation as well.
Yeah, like, Erin and mentioned that I'm not a big fan of the word native either. I think you could probably classify it as smart advertising. We kind of view it as a combination of both paid and earned, really developed to deliver a unique experience to that platform. We've been doing some stuff with our client McDonald's in partnership with Celtra. Go see Paul Simmons, he's sitting in the front row. For the new Mighty Wings campaign they just launched, and we worked with them to deliver some unique experiences for both Facebook and Twitter. So, it's interesting trying to get a client to move toward, again, smart advertising. I think a lot of the brands are still taking, the desktop experience and trying to squeeze it into mobile. So it has been a little bit of a challenge. I can't talk about any specific numbers or anything like that, of course, but, it has been a little bit of a challenge.
Right. What are the unique challenges that mobile presents, and how have you guys been able to find ways to overcome those for your clients?
Creative, I don't have it. I mean, can't really run an effective campaign if you don't have creative. And when you're running 140 initiatives out of a year and your creative agencies don't know how to build creative, I would say that's probably a top issue. So, I mean, luckily, just like native and just like demo, if you guys as vendor partners can't develop creative, it's kind of like your point of entry. So for us, it's leaning on partners. But then again, when you're trying to get into the cross-platform and the seamless experience across screens, if you have 5 different partners, each developing creative, it doesn't align with your print, your TV, your desktop, so really what you're branding. So I would say the number one issue that we face on a daily basis is creative. I'd like to say it's simple and easily overcome, but been trying for 3 years and still it's an issue.
Interesting. Does anyone else have any other take on that? What are some of the unique challenges that mobile has? Because creative is an interesting take. I've heard people talk about that, but I've heard other people mention other things that are uniquely challenging in mobile.
I would say it's understanding the difference in how people consume various pieces of content across different devices. So you're going to read and have an appetite and an attention span on your smartphone very differently than you are when you're on your tablet. So I agree that creative is a huge challenge, but then reimagining that creative concept or that intent so that it's relevant across the various devices is another fairly meaningful conversation we have with clients.
Yeah, I agree. I think creative, obviously coming from a creative agency and being in the role for 7-8 months now, it has been a little bit of a challenge, and I think that's why I formed that partnership with the folks at Celtra to really kind of test and learn different creative. But also I think the second thing is obviously analytics. I think huge hurdle in the space.
Yep.
Yeah, I would go off the ROI. I mean, the question I get every time I'm in a client meeting is, well, what's the ROI for mobile? And I have to go back to creative because we have MMM data for mobile, but it is a complete up and down line because each unit is producing different results and there isn't a common theme. So for ROI, I mean, that's obviously, being able to crack the code on that is still a little far out. I mean, we do have results, but it comes down to actually having that creative experience to effectively measure and understand the platform.
I think it's aggregating all the measurement or all the analytics for our clients because they're used to certain sources of comfort. In television it was the GRP. Now in the digital space we're pulling things out of DFA. And some of these tools aren't ready for mobile or they can't catch all the signals. So I think the biggest challenge is sort of moving clients off what has been or what have been more traditional signals for them in digital and getting to understand what's more relevant in mobile for them to look at.
Right. Yeah, and in the mobile space, what I see so much is that the instant feedback on whether or not the ad unit was consumed or not, whether or not your campaign was successful or not, gives mobile a unique ability to deliver ROI and real-time data that other spaces can't. Because if you throw, what kind of real-time data can TV actually really give you? Can you really figure out if that person's face was actually on your screen at the same time? But then trying to push the sled uphill like you guys have, making the case that in mobile you actually can get a response and figure out a measurable, attainable, data-driven results, I think is fascinating about the space as well. And then when you layer on that, having a perspective of whether or not the ads are smart, whether or not the ads are native, whether or not they're helpful or not. I had a question for you guys. So if you're talking about native advertising, serving up an ad unit in whatever capacity, how do you strike a balance between the needs of the publisher, who needs to stay in brand, and obviously your client, the advertiser, who actually is certainly very conscious of their need to have their brand taken care of? And so how do you strike that harmony between the two? You got the publisher side and the advertiser side.
I think you focus on the needs of the consumer. I mean, that's a win-win for both. It's, you know, it gets to be a selfish when you're looking at brands, advertisers, when you're both trying to make money, and how are you going to make the money? It's focus on the needs of the consumer.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's just developing a deeper relationship with some of those publishers. We're going through this right now. I mean, you know, there's that handful of publishers, and we do this in partnership with our sister agency, OMD, just really working with those partners. What can we do? You know, what's in beta right now? What can we do, test and learn? I think that's one thing that, you know, a lot of agencies need to focus on, is just that deeper relationship with the publishers.
And I think it also comes down to your planners as well. I mean, you're not going to, you know, as we were saying before, it's smart advertising, right? So you're not going to put something that's completely out of context. And there are some publishers, unfortunately, that'll take any and all monies that they can get their hands on and, you know, put cigarette advertising in front of, you know, a kid's, you know, platform. And
So would that be an example of native advertising?
yeah, probably not. So it's, you know, it's incumbent upon, you know, the agencies as an agent of the client, because that's going to have as much of an effect driving results we've found as, you know, variations on the creative itself.
Good. I've heard it said that in mobile and in advertising that content is king. Phrase that gets thrown around a lot. But I've also heard that content without a distribution model is like a king without a crown. And so talk to me a little bit about how you guys have helped overcome the problem of distribution on a unique platform in mobile.
So, you know, sometimes it just comes down to the negotiation. So you have certain things that come up within your discussions on amplification. If you have a piece of content that you put out on a platform that you know will perform well enough, but if they can then also support it through Twitter, Facebook, or some of their other attached platforms, that begins to expand their, you know, the term amplify the performance and drive, you know, even better sort of second wave results.
Yep. You guys are awesome at marketing. How do you help your clients be found?
Spend millions of dollars on ads.
Hire Razorfish.
It's a wide open question.
Spend a whole bunch of money with us. Well, let's move on then.
Threw a curveball there. That wasn't on the
Sorry.
list.
I know. So let's talk a little bit about where you guys see mobile going from here. Each one of you guys are involved. You've shared with some of the really creative projects you guys have been working on. Where do you see what's coming next for mobile? Give us a little view into the future.
I'll say, you know, the one thing I've always said my fear of mobile is that it's going to just be a banner, because that's not what mobile is. It's connectivity. And so for me, the conversations we're having is not a banner. It's connected home. Knowing that these devices are so smart, they're smarter than you and I. I'm, again, tied a P&G product, since that's what I oversee, is how do I plug into Samsung washer and dryers, you know, put in a product life cycle so it knows that I have 3 Tide Pods left. It triggers me to purchase that product. Like, I don't really care about the tactical innovations that are going on. Well, I shouldn't say I don't care, because it's my job to care to an extent. But for me, the future is connectivity and beyond a banner. So when you get into connected car, connected home, connected lifestyles, when you see some of these videos out there about, you know, countertops being all, you know, touch screen, implement your product lifestyle, click to purchase, like, those are the conversations we're having. I mean, the day-to-day is buying banners, but the future is the connectivity.
I think as we look towards the future, we're going to see a big disruption in operating system, that, we're going to be looking at iOS and Android really taking over the digital medium in the next, I don't want to be predicting in any way, shape, or form, but we're really moving away from the standards that we've had for the last 10 years, and the 10 years is going to, forward are going to look very, very different. The thing that we're looking a bit at is kind of more closed loop systems. So that path to purchase along those signals we're going to get closer and closer to. So, we'll be able to track from, let's say, connected home into the purchase cycle. And it's going to feel much closer and much more personal because it's with a device that's always with us.
So to go back to something you were saying a minute ago, content is king. The way we think about it is content is very important, but context probably still trumps that slightly, because if you put content out of context, in the discussion around native advertising, is kind of meaningless noise, and you lose that signal value. So I think along with sharing their thoughts, the ability to really leverage some of these big data streams. I know big data is sort of this buzzy term, and everybody hates buzzy terms, but big data, again, is sort of meaningless without the smart predictive analytics that sit on top of it. You bring all that to bear, and when we talk to our automotive clients, we talk about their mobile experiences alongside their either in-vehicle or out-of-vehicle moments. It's about what knows you better than the combination of your smartphone and your car. It knows where you've been better than your spouse or even maybe you remember. If we talk about your purchase behavior, what knows you better than your mobile phone plus your financial services partner, your credit card, that sort of thing. And so it's beginning to bring in all of these dissimilar data streams in a way that's responsible, in a way that is personalized, in a way that's not, creepy, as people become a little more comfortable with the idea of having something that's served or developed almost bespoke for them in the moment. That becomes pretty powerful when you're walking around with either your smartphone or your watch or your glass or whatever. And all of a sudden, life is just a little easier. You get to focus on the stuff that you enjoy and not on the stuff that's in the way or is a pain in the neck. That's where we think it's going.
Yeah, for me, it's, again, all the data that's available in mobile. I look at, a QSR client, McDonald's, taking sales data, taking time, taking location, weather, and packaging that all up. I mean, based on there's certain products that sell when it's hot out, certain products that sell when it's cold out. It's an impulse decision. Nobody says, hey, honey, you want to go to McDonald's on Friday? It's typically within an hour of mealtime. So taking all that data, and again, I know it's cliche, but delivering the right message at the right time.
And then in terms of being able to then find the right users at the right time, how have you guys overcome the problem of figuring out exactly then how to put that in front of the right person at the right time? Because all of you guys do definitely are driving some type of either retail experience, or you're looking for them to engage in some type of model. Most of you guys are setting up with some type of campaign, with some type of cost per engagement, cost per action, those types of activities then. So then what type of metrics do you talk to your client about that they want to be looking at in order to make sure that they are serving up the right type of audience at the right time?
I think it varies by initiative. Like I said, we have over 130 to 40 initiatives over a 12-month period outside of a video upfront. So I can't say, here's what you need to measure across the board. Like, you have to take it on an individual basis. Like, there's Eukanuba dog food, which before P&G, I've never heard of that brand, but they're trying to drive consumers to pet stores, PetSmart. So it's, okay, focus and hone in on dog parts. Geofence, PetSmart. Well, that's actually going to be, when you get into the PVR and cost per engagement, well, that's not going to make sense for NFL tight Super Bowl ads. So I don't think you can make a blanket statement about what you need to tell your clients to measure. You have to pay attention to each initiative and the consumers associated with that.
I think it'll depend also, like you said, on the initiative, but I think that some of the signals that get kind of interesting can be, one, we tell them not to look at CTR, just move on. And look at, post-click engagement, look at video completion rates, those types of things. Some of those that are similar to what you would find in an online world or a desktop world. But then you got to start really looking at sort of the mobile signals. A couple things that we've been taking a look at is location and movement. So there's not only geofencing or being hyperlocal or whatever you want to call it, but it's also about what is the movement that you're seeing, of that actual group of phones, towards a retail location. And if we can then marry that piece up with what's happening in that store in terms of sales, then we're starting to really marry or get closer to that closed loop. So I think that taking a look at how location not only impacts some basic metrics, but how location may also give off other signals, post-click or once we're in the consumer mindset.
So I think it's also about moving a step above the tactical engagement metrics and looking at what are the business objectives, and so what is the purpose. What we try very hard to do is make sure the clients are no longer thinking about a mobile campaign or a mobile initiative, that it's actually part and parcel to a greater effort by and large. And mobile, whether we include tablets or we don't include tablets anymore in the description of mobile, they're very important, special, intimate devices, and they do things that TV can't do. They do things that desktop cannot do. And it's about thinking about how do the outcomes on the mobile screens and then the mobile devices, how do they influence and work with the outcomes of the overall campaign throughout the funnel, throughout the life cycle.
Yeah, I think it's a holy grail in mobile is trying to track from initial engagement all the way to redemption. And I know it's a big hurdle right now, specifically in like QSR and retail, is just the fragmentation of the POS system, with not only mobile payment, but mobile ordering, things like that. I think we're starting to educate a lot of our clients on just the opportunity to be able to track that.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit to the data points and how we basically are looking at what things we can and can't track in a mobile space, and whether not they matter or not. Device identifier, platform that they're running, geo-targeting and those types of things. To what extent have you guys been able to leverage the things that mobile can do in terms of targeting those folks to make sure that they're getting on their right users?
It's not there yet. I mean,
Okay.
obviously,
Yeah.
you do your best, you test, you target, you test again, target again, and you begin to kind of hone in on where
Right.
you want to be. We've had a few pilots that have gotten pretty close, but we struggle to scale them. You can do a lot of things on a small base, but the computing power that really is required to identify your device.
Yep.
Because of so many different Wi-Fi networks you hit, and then tracking you off that into the cellular networks. I think that's going to be the holy grail. There's a lot of companies out there that are getting very close to kind of closing that loop.
Right.
But it's a mix of, sort of black magic and analytics a lot of times.
Yeah, it's like if you and I were playing Battleship. Like, I know there's targets on your board. I don't see where they are, but if I poke a couple of holes, I'm going to be able to figure out that there's some action going on there, and let's spend a lot of time firing right around there, and because we've been able to use that and then multiply that times everything else that's going on.
But
to help.
tomorrow the board changes again.
That's right. and tomorrow the board is changing. Yeah, that makes sense. Good. Again, future, where you guys think that the space is going. The next couple of steps, we've been talking a lot about the geolocation and what that really has meant for, especially with the new iOS 7, and how that's allowed folks to move into different platforming. If you think about through the lens of native advertising, how does the layering on of the ability to figure out exactly where that user is allow new campaigns to be running with a native environment?
Well, I think, again, it's about context, right? So with geo-targeting, you know where somebody is. If they're not in New York or not in a densely populated urban environment and they're within a quarter mile of a McDonald's and it's lunchtime, you probably have another data point that more accurately targets the right person you're going to get the right outcome from.
I mean, context is everything. If you're going to be without context, you're not going to be relevant. You're just going to be like probably a good majority of the banners that I see out there. They're irrelevant, to me because they're not based on my profile and they're not based on where I am. They're not relevant. So we're doing a bad job. You might as well just put your money in search if you're going to be, irrelevant in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting too, like if you look at some of the companies like PlaceIQ or Sense Networks or even Verve, taking a lot of the consumer behavior, all the data that's available. I mean, as you guys said, it's just because I'm 0.2 miles away from Kmart doesn't mean I'm in the mood to shop. Whereas if you know that my home location is this, my work location is this, and, you deliver me a message for a cup of coffee at 8 a.m., knowing that this is my home, this is my work, that starts to get relevant. Whereas just because I'm 0.2 miles away from something doesn't mean I'm in the mood to go buy, a stereo or a TV.
Yeah, I think that's key. I mean, you launch your first location-based initiative, then everybody's like, I want to do it. And it's like, step back. Why do you want to do it? Like, don't do it just to do it, which is what every single person out there does. One person does it, then it's like, oh, I'm going to go follow. I want to follow you, and you did location-based, so I'm going to go do it too. And it's like, that's why I say it's like the QR code. It's horrible because everybody did it because someone else did, and they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And so that's when it comes down to, like, with location, it's like, Dirk is going from A to B, so deliver the message. Like, I don't really eat fast food, so, like, I don't live near fast food, so don't deliver me, saying it's 3 miles away. Well, I'm not going to drive there to get a coffee or something. It's making sure that you're taking all the data that's available and understanding a consumer and making sure that there's relevancy and a consumer is going to take action. Don't just do something to do it because someone else has done it. And that's what a lot of people out there in mobile are doing, just replicating.
One of the conversations I was having with a guy out in the hall was around building an ROI around advertising and some of the key things you have to do in order to build a lifetime value for a user and things like that. In your work that you guys have done in the consulting field and with your clients, how have you been able to help your clients develop what a valuable user is? Track, figure out whether it's at a 1-day hurdle, 7-day hurdle, with their engagement with your campaign, and how have you guys been able to help develop a lifetime value model in order to, as you were saying, talking about Erin, develop that ROI, return on their investment for your clients?
I mean, I don't think there's a method. It's a lot of time and a lot of data. I mean, you really have to focus on partnering with someone who has first-party data. I mean, I'm a very honest person. When iAd came out, I absolutely hated it. I was the biggest hater of Apple for a while, outside of personal consumption. But you see the value in their platform in the wealth of data they have. And now with iTunes Radio, everyone's like, great, music. I'm like, I don't care about that. I care about, I can track you. I can track you on your TV. I can track you across your screen, and I know who you are. Because you're not going to download, you're not going to download like a kid's show unless you have kids. Like, what I'm downloading, I'm paying for, and I'm consuming. So you know who I am. And so really it comes down, you need to partner with someone who has that wealth of first-party data. I mean, again, with Apple, P&G spends months of developing a who. This is who our consumer is for this particular product. Well, we were able to disprove that based on actual consumption through Apple, which then in turn changed our entire TV strategy. And so we actually are able to understand who the consumer is because it was actual first-party data. I mean, yeah, there's great third-party data that you can utilize, but I would say you really need to get into that first-party data because you can see who someone is, and then you have to learn over time. It's not going to be just one initiative. You learn who your consumer is. It's definitely over time, and it's going to be adjusted.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said earlier, I think it's just developing a deeper relationship with those publishers. And, once you do that, again, as Erin said, that they'll start to share a lot of that data that's available that they may not share with somebody else.
I think we've got to also stop looking at our consumers or our customers as mobile and everything else. So if your agency has built an ROI model and a profile of a consumer and is taking in that data and spitting it out, well, they're certainly either should be or they're going to be soon taking in their mobile data and then really kind of providing a unified, view of when should we be talking to this consumer and what is their value and how does, for example, a mobile, event or, offer or what have you impact that ROI. But don't treat them as the same. 99% of us have a desktop and we also have a phone and we also have a tablet. A quarter of us all have all three. So take all those, signals to build your profile and then start testing to see how those channels are impacting or not impacting, the value of that customer over time. And couldn't agree more, with you around Apple because, it's not only that the scale and the ubiquity of the actual product to the consumer, but the data that they have is invaluable. And some of the data that they have, you can use, what I've done is I've kind of rolled out some of the insights into some of our other partners. We were able to validate, where, for example, some of our Fidelity client, targets were and where they were spending time. I didn't have to do it all within Apple. I could just roll it out to somebody else and just kind of keep going and learning.
Yeah, I think
So Eric, actually, I want to interject here because we only have about 4 minutes left, and I want to get some questions from the audience. But I just want to take a quick moment to kind of disagree with Erin a little bit on when it comes to the data. She said something about, you wouldn't download a kids show unless you had kids or if you smoked weed. So you have to keep that in mind that people
Who
can
told you?
sometimes confuse. It's just some more serious questions, though. Let's open up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions for the panel?
That's not true.
You don't smoke weed, or?
I didn't inhale.
Okay. I approve this message. All right. Question right here, we go.
You mentioned a big problem is creative. Do you mean the individual creative or creative across the different channels being consistent?
All the above. I mean, there can't be consistency if you don't know how to develop mobile, and people develop creatives, and I'm not knocking everyone, it's just the way that you're, same with media, like media pliers, you don't have that many mobile experts. You develop TV, and then, okay, now I'm gonna switch and learn how to do, desktop, and then, I'm gonna do mobile. Think about how they all work together. Right now, everything's being built individually. And so lack of understanding of mobile is a major issue, but then lack of understanding to take a step back and look at the entire consumer experience, not just individual screens. So it's both. I mean, I'll even say from a media buying perspective, I mean, everything was so siloed, and now we're trying to flip the model where everyone's integrated across the board.
Any other questions?
So if I had to sum up the day of sitting in these panels, I would say
Measurements.
mobile is messy, and it is all of you who have to take all of this data and devices, all this information that in no way coalesces, comes together so that you can go to your clients and say, here's a program that you can buy and here's how you're going to measure it. And this is way too broad a question, but I'm wondering, with a device that's run away with the market for which we really don't have any clean, cohesive solutions, how you manage that with your clients, knowing that they have to be in mobile, but you have this very messy set of solutions to bring to them.
You educate. I mean, 85% of what I do is education. 95% of what people do externally is chase bright, shiny objects. They don't focus on building a foundation, and that's what my team has spent 2.5 years doing, is defining it. We don't wait for someone else to define it. Like mobile ad serving solution, we worked for the past 2 years to implement one. So now any partner that works with P&G has to run with a mobile ad serving solution. It's education and take a risk and define. Don't wait for someone else to define it, or you're never gonna get there.
Yeah, I've seen brands kind of have a 70-20-10 rule, do 70% of what you're comfortable with, 20% of extending a current pilot, and 10% just try some new stuff.
Any other questions from the audience at all? I did have a question for the panel. How do you guys feel about the interaction between the social media, like kind of incentivizing people who believe in certain brands to kind of share and incentivize them? I'll give you an example. I was at a conference last week, and BarkBox, I don't know if you guys are familiar with BarkBox. It's a subscription-based business in which they basically send out for $19.99 a bunch of consumable products for dogs on a monthly basis. They're about 18 months in, they made about $25 million. And they've mostly driven it from social aspects, Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo, and just incentivizing customers, they said they have a very robust referral program that encourages people to share it. How do you guys feel like, instead of spending all of the money on these things that you can't measure, you can measure when people share and like? And
I think inherently mobile is social.
so how do you incentivize that? How do you incentivize the social aspect to get more out of it?
Well,
question.
yeah, and I know one of the things that I've seen is that when you're building that ROI model is including that social media feedback loop, is you have to talk about, if you're acquiring and getting and making an investment, about what that social media feedback loop is going to loop back into that return on your investment.
Okay, so any closing statements before we wrap?
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.